Hi, I'm Dr. Stephen Stosny, and welcome to this description of our courses on emotional healing and growth. Human beings have amazing capacity to heal emotional wounds and to outgrow the footprints they leave on the soul. But in most cases, the course of healing and renewed growth takes a long, long time. Footprints on the soul are past injuries that flare up at times of extended stress, increasing or decreasing intimacy. And some people have a fear of engulfment, so if you get too close, that brings up these footprints on their souls. And some people, if you get too far away, it brings them up. And they're likely to flare up with threats of abandonment of any kind. It's never a good idea, no matter how bad your relationship is, to threaten abandonment. What you can do is say there are changes that have to be made, and I want to try to work through it. But to just say, you shape up or I'm out of here, that's going to aggravate all kinds of footprints on the soul. Footprints on the soul can take many forms. It can be past abuse, boundary violations, rejection, betrayal, guilt, failure in work or career or school, dread of humiliation, fear of harm, deprivation, or isolation. Those are the most common forms that they take, and they can flare up at any time. Now, often worse than the footprints themselves is the defensive systems they engender. Defensive systems that limit growth and prevent healing, these are the major ones. Resentment or anger, that's the most common. Chronic criticism, compulsive behavior, alcohol or drug abuse, workaholism, that was mine, and sexual acting out. The chronic criticism, I should say a note about that, that is a way of presuming that you're superior to the people that you're criticizing. That's why it prevents healing and growth. The way you want to deal with those footprints on the soul is to criticize others. And not only is that unfair to them, but you're going to get nothing but negative responses to criticism. Our courses on emotional healing and growth are designed to speed up the healing process, to wipe all footprints from the soul and replace the self-sabotaging defenses around them. So that's the intention of these 10 courses. They're all based on solid principles of neurology, biology, and psychology. We've learned a lot about those three elements. Traditional treatments tend to only emphasize the psychological aspect when you have to really do all three. The emotional healing courses are Heal, Grow, Empower. That is essentially correcting painful memories, associating them with memories of value and growth. Overcoming anxiety, which is a symptom of all emotional hurt and all footprints on the soul. And overcoming addictions. I want to say a little bit about that course. A sad fact about recovery from alcohol and drug abuse, almost everyone fails in the beginning. Rarely do you go through a drug rehab or alcohol program and stay off the wagon. There's almost certainly going to be at least one relapse, usually repeated relapses. And the primary reason for that is unconscious emotions intensify cravings. So they tend to programs tend to focus on the behaviors that come before relapse, and that's good. I'm saying don't do that. But the emotions that trigger the behaviors are unconscious, and unless you can have an unconscious way of regulating them, they're going to cause those relapses. So the content of the course is really to develop a practice regimen to change habits that support abuse. A regimen to recondition the emotional system to make it stronger and more flexible so it doesn't need to be supported by alcohol and drugs. And finally, it has skills to regulate unconscious urges automatically. So the problem with urges and emotions is by the time you're aware of them, they're already in advanced states. They have biological and neurological functions that outweigh and go much faster than the psychological functions. And it has skills to raise self-value under stress, to reduce the guilt, shame, anxiety, anger, and resentment that lead to relapse. The emotional growth courses are Soar Above, Change Emotional Habits, The Powerful Self, The Bridge to Well-Being, and Transcendence and Happiness. Soar Above is how to use the most profound part of your brain under stress. All animals, including humans, retreat to previously learned habits under stress. And if those habits have been producing failure or a lot of anger, resentment, and negativity in the past, when you retreat to them, they're going to do the same thing. And they're mostly blame, denial, and avoidance. I call those the toddler defenses because we start doing those at 2 years old. And the course provides new habits, replacing blame, denial, and avoidance with improve, appreciate, connect, and protect. Changing emotional habits. That's how to replace bad emotional habits with successful ones. The powerful self, you learn to invoke power modes of self to produce rapid changes with far-reaching effects on behavior and mood. We all have power modes of self, and we all have weak modes of self. A mode of self each has its own style of thinking, behaving, and feeling. The power modes are competent, growth creative, healing or nurturing, and compassionate. When you're in your power modes, you're behaving at your best. But we also have weak modes, and those are feeling helpless, dependent, oppressive, or destructive. We all have those, and under stress, that's when we're more likely to retreat to them. So the powerful self shows how to invoke the power modes of self under stress. The bridge to well-being promotes basic humanity, which is the innate interest in the well-being of others. In other words, the more you're interested you are in other people, the higher your self-value. The only way to maintain genuine self-value is to think and behave humanely. In Transcendence and Happiness, you learn how to use the unavoidable pain of life to grow greater, to become the most empowered and humane person you can be. Now, each course is standalone, but together they cover all aspects of emotional healing and growth. You should notice at least a slight improvement in physical health. And that's because emotional pain causes tissue inflammation, which is the precursor to ill health and most disease. Inflamed tissue they're like a petri dish. Any kind of bacteria or virus can grow in them. The brain can't really distinguish emotional pain from physical pain, so it has a physical reaction too when we experience emotional pain. That's why you get sick more when you're in emotional pain. Thank you for your attention and best of luck in your path to healing and growth.